Welcome to Talk Across America. I'm Doug Miles, and we're here in beautiful Sarasota, Florida. Joining us now, great pleasure to welcome to our show today. He's author of a very interesting new book out called Late Bloomers. It's going to help a lot of us, I think. Hopefully it will. The Power of Patience in a World Obsessed with Early Achievement. He's also the publisher of Forbes magazine, a great magazine that has been around for a long time. And Rich Karlgaard joined us by telephone today. And Rich, good to talk with you. How are you?
Doing well, Doug.
Yeah, good to have a chance to chat with you. I know we were scheduled to do this about a month or so ago, but I'm glad we could reschedule it for today. I had an opportunity to read through the book at that time. And as I said, I think a lot of people, they're so obsessed today, people are so obsessed with getting things done at a young age, but a lot of people feel left out, but I'm glad you wrote this book. I think it gives hope for a lot of people.
Yeah, in the book I describe myself as a late bloomer, certainly despite having a college degree from a good school. In my middle 20s, I was not capable of yet holding any kind of a serious job. I was a dishwasher, a temp typist, I was a security guard, and then I didn't even begin to bloom into adult responsibilities until I was in my late 20s. Well, that was then. And today it's become so much harder for kids, I think, to bloom into something they were meant to become, because they're on social media all the time and they get typecast. It's hard to break out of a typecasting mold that they themselves create for themselves. And school today is such a, well, I describe it as a conveyor belt to early success that's creating this kind of pressure on parents who then put the pressure on their kids to get these great test scores and great grades, all with the hope of getting into the most elite college that they can, which is usually the most expensive college out there, which many can't afford and take on way too much debt to support. And what is it doing? Is it really working? Well, it works for a handful, but it's creating a lot of stress out there, both financial stress, psychological stress. Rates of anxiety, depression, and even suicide are up for teens and young adults. And we're not getting better outcomes from this early pressure at all. So I felt that I needed to start a conversation around this topic.
I always thought, even, when I was in that age group, late high school years, you had an idea what you're interested in, but how do you know what you want to do for the next 40 or 50 years? And why would you want to commit to that?
Well,
and I knew that then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I guess we had wisdom back then.
I don't know.
Deprived from the kids, or they don't think it's as valuable to do that. And I think it's particularly true when you, in some of the larger cities, Silicon Valley in New York, Silicon Valley, you have technology companies with so many examples of early blooming success. You have the same thing on Wall Street, and boy, if you live and you circle in those kinds of environments, and those kind of environments are expanding out, rippling out throughout the country, then you feel like, well, youthful experimentation was something of an earlier generation. It's not for our generation. And that's a wrong thing to think, because the economy is changing faster than it ever has before, so we're going to need more skills throughout our lifetimes than we ever needed before. And we're living longer, provided we take care of ourselves. And, so if there's going to be more change over a longer period of life, we sure as heck better develop the habit of finding where we can really make contributions, where we really get jazzed up about what we're doing, where we're willing to do the hard work because we feel like we're being pulled toward our own destiny rather than feeling pushed by society's expectations.
Yeah. I always thought, and you kind of touch on it in the book as well, there's kind of people look down on you now if you did a job for a while and you moved to a completely different field. Well, you tried it and didn't work, or you didn't like it. You should be able to do that. That should be a good thing. But I think there's still that stigma a little bit out there, isn't there?
Well, it's called reinvention. Everybody has the right to reinvent. In the book I call it repotting. The way I define blooming is, first of all, chronologically, late blooming is simply that you bloom later. You come into your own. You come into your full powers later than expected. Whatever expected is in your field or your community. I mean, you could be Tom Brady's a late bloomer in football because he was only the 199th player drafted in the year 2000 NFL draft. But he bloomed in his 20s, but he was late relative to his field. So you bloom later than expected in your field. And then there's the more metaphysical or spiritual way of describing, and that is we're all in our best position to bloom when through a series of discoveries that we go out on in our lives, and that involves experimentation, we arrive at that place where we can put our deepest native God-given gifts to work, and we're passionate about it, and we feel a sense of purpose about it. And when we get that kind of an alignment, this happened to me, and then you feel pulled. And then you feel like you can do things you couldn't do before. You can sell when you never thought you could sell your way out of a paper bag before. You develop courage when you always thought of yourself as being a passive person. But you do those things when you're being pulled toward your destiny, and when you feel like you're being pushed by others, there always comes that day when you're going to feel the burnout, and maybe you'll even resort to some kind of self-sabotage.
Yeah. And again, you talk about, too, in the book, quitting. I mean, there's nothing wrong with quitting if you find out it's not working for you, right? Go somewhere else or do something else.
Quitting's part of experimentation. You know, the idea that quitters never win, winners never quit. I mean, sure, I can understand that if it's like fourth down in a fourth quarter of a football game and you need to really buckle down, or you're going to lose, or with much higher stakes, you're in a war situation where you simply can't quit. But to apply that all the time, that attitude, I think is mistaken, because we got to pick our shot. And entrepreneurs are quitting all the time. They're experimenting. People like Richard Branson, he quit Virgin Cola. He quit Virgin Brides. Entrepreneurs are constantly trying things, and when they don't work, they get out. That's a whole different discussion than saying, that quitting is the appropriate response to any kind of adversity. No, no, ever. But strategically quitting, when you can put yourself in a more optimal spot, there's always an optimal spot for your talent, your time, your treasure, and your purpose. And so if you're misapplying it to other people's expectations, why should you continue to do that?
Yeah, you're not giving up. You're just quitting that particular venture. So I think that's the difference.
Yeah. You're making a 20-degree turn, or maybe a more dramatic turn into some place where that is, has your name on it.
I know we just have limited time, but have you found, Rich, you mentioned, the youngsters of today, millennials, whatever they're called now, do you feel they feel this way? Are they feeling more pressure? I know you said, everybody's on their machines and phones and all that. How do you get through to them?
Yeah, well, I really wrote this book for their parents.
Right.
I don't think people like to be called late bloomers when they're young, because it implies that they're losers. And that's a wrong way to see it. But their parents sure get it, because their parents are feeling torn up because their kid's only getting B's. Last time I heard, a kid getting B's and staying out of trouble and doing some extracurricular activities is pretty good.
Yeah.
In fact, we have these neighbors. They have the right way of raising their parents. Their kid gets B's. He's an Eagle Scout. They go to church. They go to church in their affluent neighborhood, but once a month they make sure they go to church in a poorer neighborhood. To me, they're stepping out of this early blooming mania in Silicon Valley, and they're raising their boy the right way.
Late Bloomers, The Power of Patience in a World Obsessed with Early Achievement is the name of the book, and we've been talking with Rich Karlgaard today. Rich, do you have a specific website you want to direct people to for the book?
Sure. Well, you can find the book anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, or you can go to richkarlgaard.com. Be sure you spell it right, Rich, R-I-C-H, Karlgaard, KARLGAARD.com.
Great. Rich, pleasure talking to you. Hopefully we can do it again, but thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much, Doug, and hope to be back.
Thank you for joining us today on Talk Across America. Please visit our website at dougmilesmedia.com for more great interviews and content. And if you're interested in any of the books we talk about on the program, please click the Amazon link on our website. It helps support the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again real soon here from beautiful Sarasota, Florida.
I'm Stan Brock, 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.